This week on the Powell Not Found podcast, we're talking about Rafael Devers does not want to switch positions, the 4 seasons on Netflix, what an amazing show that is, and we finish up with The Accountant 2, Ben Affleck's return to his action franchise. Coming up next on the show, here we go.
I'm gonna tell you a story about a girl who loves gin. A national pandemic seized her birthday celebration. Although she knew it was coming, we tried not to tell her. She brewed some Irish breakfast tea. She knew her birthday was getting corona.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Powell Not Found podcast. I am your host, Mark Powell, for the week of Monday, May 12th, 2025. Coming to you on a Monday because yesterday was, of course, Mother's Day. Hopefully everyone hugged their mother. They definitely appreciate it. If you have a mother in your family, just go up to them and give them a big hug because God knows we're all here because of the hard work and nurturing that mothers give us every single day. Fathers are pretty okay too, but go ahead and hug your mother. I'm sure she'll appreciate it. We had a pretty big weekend. We saw The Accountant 2, finished up the 4 seasons. I wanted to talk about that because I was truly struck from both of these viewings for different reasons. One was very, very touching, and the other one was just amazingly camp action movie. But first, we got to talk a little bit of baseball. I mean, the Yankees take 2 out of 3 from the Athletics. Pretty lopsided games, 10-2, 7-11 to the Athletics, and then 12-2. Certainly, offense was the main contributor here, along with some pretty good pitching performances from Will Warren. Finally, a breakout from Will Warren, who's been, I feel like, waiting for this start for over a season now. I know Will Warren has not always been given the opportunity to get this kind of start, but finally breaks through with, I believe it was 7 innings pitched and 2 earned runs, maybe. It was very, very good. A quality start from a rotation that not in shambles, but is staying relevant and competitive in a way that probably, if you said on paper that you were going to have Ryan Yarbrough in your starting rotation, you probably would have been a little bit worried. But the way that injuries have decimated the Yankees rotation, these outings are going to mean more than the consistency of Max Fried. Getting quality starts from Schmidt, getting quality starts from Yarbrough are going to be really the difference maker, whether it's going to be a wild card spot or a division spot. So for them to step up and for him to step up has really, really been just an absolute joy to watch some of these younger people step up. It really kind of makes me think of Clark Schmidt's year last year, right? Finally, the breakout year. Hopefully, Will Warren can do the same thing. A couple years ago for Clark Schmidt. Heel last year, having that breakout rookie of the year season. We need more of these young pitchers to kind of step up and fortify this rotation because of all these injuries, right? We're not going to see Cole until June of next year because of Tommy John, right? Stroman, God knows if we're going to see him. I'm assuming we're only going to see him until it's an absolute guarantee that the Yankees are not going to hit 140 innings pitched when his contract's vest finally for the next year. We need these younger pitchers to step up in this way, in the way that Will Warren did in the first game of this series. So good on him. Jason Dominguez with a 3 home run game. Finally, the Martian has landed. It has looked like a struggle for him all year. At the plate and in the field, it is hard to even focus on the fact that his bat is supposed to be the one that basically fortifies some of the lineup, right? It's the bat that everyone's been waiting for. It was the bat that when it finally went down with what did he go down with? A hamstring injury last year and didn't come back, and then Tommy John or whatever it was that kind of put him out for a long period of time. We were waiting for this bat to show up in the lineup. And with him taking over left field and learning left field, I mean, some of these routes are still not pretty. Some of these routes are very, very shaky at best. Some of these routes are Juan Soto-like. Can I say that? Is the Mets fandom going to get mad at me for saying that? But he is a liability in the field, but he's getting better and better. So for the bat to show up 3 home runs, hopefully that adds a little bit of comfort to him in the lineup and some offensive assistance that's needed. I mean, outside of Grisham and contributions from Volpe, this lineup needs it. It really, really needs it. And Judge, even though it seems like he's going to be the next 400 hitter, I can't imagine he's going to continue this pace. I mean, 409 at the end of this series. It is May 11th, May 12th, and he's hitting 409. Unbelievable numbers. He's just making it look like he's playing a different game on the 2025 seasons. 40 games played, 154 at bats, 63 hits. Just keep that in mind. There have been 40 games, and he's already amassed 63 hits. That's a good season for certain people, for certain players. 63 hits, 11 doubles, 2 triples, and 14 bombs, 39 RBIs on the season, and 24 walks. I mean, a slash line of 409, 494, 779 slug. He's as a 1.2 OPS. And for those who are not familiar with on base plus slugging, if you're hitting over an 800 in on base plus slugging, you are considered a pretty good player. 1.274 for Judge. I mean, the man is an absolute machine. He's really put up such amazing offensive numbers that he's made you forget that we lost a gigantic bat last year. All the cries for Soto going to Mets doesn't really feel like we've lost a step here. Offensively, at least Judge. I mean, Judge seems like he's putting up a career number. It makes you think, is Judge going for another contract? It's unbelievable. But Yankees take 2 out of 3 from the Athletics. They are playing Seattle tonight at 9:40. These West Coast games are always a little bit tough to keep a bead on if you're a fan. Last year, staying up until, I mean, thank God they sped up the game, because before they started doing the pitch clock and before they really dictated and took control of the pace of the game, I mean, some of these West Coast games were ending at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and it was brutal. These are concerns that nobody will have ever again, because the pace of the game is a lot faster and a lot more improved. But my goodness, the next day at work is always a little bit of a struggle with these West Coast games. So the Yankees end up going for 3 in Seattle, and hopefully they pick up the pace here. I mean, they're first in the division at a 23-17. They're 2 games up on an improved Boston team. And talking about Boston, that is exactly what I want to kind of turn to here. Rafael Devers making the news on last Thursday, May 8th, telling the Boston Red Sox that he will not play first. Tristan Casas went down with a season-ending injury, and the GM went to Rafael Devers. And if you're not familiar with Rafael Devers, amazing left-handed hitter. He is a Yankee killer. He's pestered Cole for season after season after season. He is what I would call maybe like a current generation Big Papi, without maybe the offensive numbers of Big Papi, but he has that same kind of presence, at least when he faces the Yankees. He's always been a pest. He's always been a thorn in the side. And now he's being a thorn in the side of his own team, telling his manager that he's not going to play first base, even though they asked him. This is from MLB.com, Ken Potak on the article here. Rafael Devers has put his foot down and his glove away too. He's not going to play first base. Speaking to the media for the first time since Tristan Casas was lost for the season after rupturing the patellar tendon in his left knee and undergoing surgery, Devers said he met with the Red Sox chief baseball officer, GM, for all intents and purposes, Craig Breslow, who asked him if he'd switch to first base, and the DH said no. Quote, "They had the conversation with me," Devers said through a team interpreter. Quote, "I don't think, for me personally, it's the best decision after they asked me to play a different position. And I only had 2 months playing this position to all of a sudden have me try to play another position. So from my end, it doesn't seem like a good decision." When you see situations like this break out on your team, it's never a good thing. It's always a distraction. It's always going to be a media frenzy to say anything like this because immediately the media is going to come for you. So even if you take away the shocking bit about being inflexible with your own team that's paying you, from a public relations standpoint, you probably just don't want to say anything at all to the media about it, right? Or plead ignorance, so that they'll leave you alone, even if you did have that conversation with the GM. From a fan's perspective, though, and this is coming from a Yankees fan, so you can take it with a grain of salt, but boy, if this player said this on the Yankees, there'd be a lot more noise. I feel like there's probably a lot of noise in Boston as well, but we saw this in the offseason when Brian Cashman kind of admitted offhandedly that Gleyber Torres didn't want to move to third base, didn't want to yield the position to Jazz Chisholm, who had been acquired from the Marlins at the deadline last year. And then Jazz played third, because he was flexible. We've seen players learn different positions. Jazz Chisholm himself with the Marlins was the second baseman, then he was the center fielder. It's that flexibility that is really supposed to be applauded in the sport, doing whatever it takes to win a ball game. I think if you spoke to any normal player, you would look at something like this situation and go, no, if the team asks you to do something and they're paying you good money, because God knows that Rafael Devers is making good money with the Red Sox, that if they ask you to play a different position, you get up and you play the different position. Again, not to make a big deal, but they're making millions of dollars, and he's a DH, which, not to say it's true, but a lot of people consider that position not a position. It is half a position. It is because of that position that people like Edgar Martinez, there was debate about whether he should have been in the Hall of Fame being a full-time DH. John Olerud had the same thing levied at him. David Ortiz had the same thing levied at him. Full-time DHs. God knows Giancarlo's not playing right now, but Giancarlo Stanton is a full-time DH, because if you play Giancarlo Stanton in the field, God knows what's going to get injured next. It is a position that, hey, if the at-bats go long, you're playing 20 minutes a game. What else can this come down to but player comfort? Like Devers said in his quote, he was just getting used to the routine of being a DH, which I don't know if that really holds up. Is that going to hold up in court? If someone asks, I know players are creatures of habit, right? They claim to be, they want to be in the same spot in the lineup all the time. They want to be every fourth day in the rotation. They want to have a routine. Human beings are like that in general. I think everybody craves a routine. You get up, you have your eggs, you have your yogurt, you go on a run, you go to work, right? That's the routine. But when you're a DH, I feel like a lot of people get taken out of the game, out of the rhythm of the game when they're told to DH. I think Giancarlo Stanton took a long time to adjust to DH because he wanted to be in the field. I think you could see that as a fan. I think you could see that as a coach. And when he ended up not being able to run anymore, I think he's just kind of accepted it over time. It's hard to stay warm. David Ortiz would talk about doing batting practice all the time. Manny Ramirez doing the same thing when he was told to DH, because if you're not in the field, your head's not in the game. People who are injured, Garrett Cole even said, when you're out of the game itself, when you're injured, it's hard for you to keep your head in the game. As a DH, you play for a maximum of 10 minutes? So it's hard not to look at his excuse of not being flexible enough to tell your own team that you're just not willing to do what it takes to play the game and to win, with Boston having a pretty successful year in a division that is not really competitive at this point. Everyone's hovering kind of around 4 or 5 games. Baltimore's in the bottom of the barrel, even though they have a very good young team. I mean, you got to make that switch, man. You might like it. I mean, it's not like you've never played the field before. Take some ground balls. Get your head in the game. That's what you're there to do. It's very, very difficult to see what Boston will do with this situation. The article goes on. It says, quote, in spring training, they talked to me and basically told me to put away my glove, and I wasn't going to play any other position but DH. Asked if there's a chance that he might change his mind. Devers said immediately, no. It's hard. It's really hard to look at these situations and go, man, you guys are spoiled. Go play the position. Shohei's out there pitching, hitting, doing everything, right? This guy doesn't want to not DH. Cut him. Just cut him. There's nothing to do. I mean, it's not going to get better from this situation. I know that they did. The Red Sox made him change positions when Bregman came and to play third base, right? I get it. You're being moved around. The hardest thing to do as a GM and a manager combined is to find playing time for players that need playing time. Trent Grisham last year wasn't played. Trent Grisham this year is like Superman. So Boone's whole problem at this point is trying to find lanes for players to play. And if players aren't flexible, if they're just going to clog up one side of the infield, man, it just doesn't bode well for your future. With not only the Red Sox, but other teams are going to be looking at this, right? The minute that your contract is up. I wish I could get up really quickly how, let's see, Devers, Rafael Devers contract. Let's see. This is according to sporttrack.com. Devers is signed through the 2033 season. The man is 28 years old. And he is making $27 million, will not move from DH. I can't see how optically this looks good at all. I mean, just an absolute fall on face moment here for the Boston Red Sox, something that they don't want to deal with, especially after their dismal season last year. Just such a distraction for the clubhouse to deal with. I know players like routine, like I said again, but still, when you're asked to move to a different position, you do it. You got to look back to players that changed positions midway through their career. Look at someone like Cal Ripken, right? When I was watching Cal Ripken as a kid, he was a third baseman. The man was a shortstop when he came up, right? Look at Alex Rodriguez. He wanted to win, moved to third base to accommodate Derek Jeter. Was an established, very good shortstop. Nomar Garcia-Parra ended up being a first baseman for the Dodgers, right? You do what you need to do to switch to help the team win. And if you're not helping the team win, man, it's hard to. I mean, the Red Sox are in a bind right now with this contract, but when you're signed till 2033 and you're this inflexible, oh boy, that's not great for your GM. Anyways, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Four Seasons and The Accountant 2, just to wrap up the show, and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Powell Not Found podcast. This is your host, Mark Powell. If you want to follow the show, if you want to subscribe to the show, that would be very, very great. Every little bit kind of helps let the show develop and let the show grow and blah, 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 blah. You can find us on all the podcast networks, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Rate and review the show. Tell us what needs to be fixed. Tell us what doesn't need to be fixed. Compliments only. And also subscribe to the show on YouTube. You can find us at youtube.com. At Powell Not Found, where you will find all the YouTube videos, all the shorts videos, and all the clips. We have quite a few now movie reviews as we enter our 64th episode of the show. And you can see all the archives of the episodes there as well. So go ahead and check that out. Help the show grow, and we'll try to kind of turn this into something that's pretty cool. Anyways, moving on, I mentioned last week that I was watching The Four Seasons, which was a new show on Netflix starring Will Forte, Tina Fey, and Steve Carrell. And anytime you mention Second City alums Tina Fey and Steve Carrell, well, I'm in. It really doesn't take a lot of convincing to watch the show. This TV series is 8 episodes long. They are about 34 minutes apiece, and it is simply brilliant. It is a remake of the 1981 Alan Alda film of the same name, The Four Seasons, and they bring it into the 21st century in such a smart and intelligent way. This series basically tracks 3 different couples, Kate and Jack, which are played by Tina Fey and Will Forte, Claude and I'm losing it right now. Nick and Anne, who are kind of a couple that are struggling through divorce, and Danny and Claude, who are in a relationship that is just getting smothered by Claude here in his entire relationship. And they basically go to each season, every 3 months, they go on vacation together in it, and one of the couples always dictates basically where they go. And you're brought into this dynamic between these 3 couples as a fly in the wall, watching one of the couples go through a midlife crisis. Nick, who's played by Steve Carell, is having a realization that he's not happy anymore with his current state of his marriage to Anne, and he decides to up and get a divorce, and he starts dating a very young, like a younger version of his own wife, someone who's like 20 years, Ginny, and takes them on vacation with the other couples as Anne is struggling to kind of deal with the ramifications of her divorce with Nick. Now, on paper, having me just gone through all that, it seems like this show would be very, very heavy. It is anything but. It is brilliantly written by Tina Fey. It is smartly written. It makes you not only feel like you're a fly on the wall, but it also is so intelligently written that it makes you think of dialogues that you've had with other people in your life because the dialogue is so realistic. They put the couples in situations. They make you feel awkwardness when awkward moments happen. They don't shy away from those moments. They deal with heavy things in very smart ways, but they deal with it in a very punchy way, so that even when you are dealing with the heaviest moments of the show, that's usually punctuated with some sort of laugh that kind of makes you feel both emotions at once. And when you're watching shows like this, what else can you ask for but for the show to emotionally bring something out in you, or for you to start comparing relationships that you've had, friendships that you've had, conversations that you've had, and compare them and go, oh, I've had that kind of realization as well, and share that moment with the characters, whether it's about like getting older or not feeling like you're part of the young generation or what have you, or feeling like two ships pass in the night or something like that, or communication failing, or getting into a fight with one of your friends. It tackles so much in 8 episodes, and it's so brilliantly done because they do it through those 3 couples and through the through the relationships that all 3 of them have with each other. Whether it's 2 best friends that like to confide in each other, you're in that moment with them, or whether it's a couple people within the vacation crew that can't seem to find any kind of level to bond. Specifically, I think Jack keeps on mentioning this this book that he's given Claude and to read, and Claude hasn't read it at all. So, but that's his only kind of way to socialize or anything like that. It is so well done. It is also very, like I said before, it's based on the 1981 movie by Alan Alda, and they do a little bit of a allusion to him in the very, very beginning. You don't have to wait long for an Alan Alda cameo to happen. I ended up watching the movie after finishing the series, and the series was so profound that it made me want to go back and watch the original movie. And what I found when I watched the original movie was how many moments in the series is a direct allusion to something that happened in the movie. I mean, it's not one-to-one. They do a good job of bringing this movie into the 21st century and modernizing it, not only with the way that it's directed or the way that the cinematography is, but they do a better job fleshing out these characters from and preventing the characters from being very, very two-dimensional, right? Especially characters like Nick, who is going through a crisis, who divorces his wife for a younger girl. That relationship can be so two-dimensional if you allow it to be. But over the course of these 4 seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, you start learning about these characters and about their flaws so much. Something that the movie, I feel like, couldn't do in the hour and a half that it had available to it. But there are so many things, whether it's the toast, whether it's some moments at the end, whether it's the way that the violins and the orchestration of the movie and the TV show. There's so many beats that afterwards you can just draw a direct line and go, wow, they were very faithful to the original source, but very smart about the things that they changed to not only make it more relatable, but more reflective of our, of the time that we live in, as opposed to late 70s, early 80s, whenever it was filmed back then. I also think they do a good job because they separated it into a television series, and because they don't have to do, they don't have to smash this into 90 minutes or 2 hours. They do a very, very good job pushing character development throughout these 4 seasons. You are with these characters, and the show allows it, and the structure of it being a television show allows these characters to develop into almost different people. The people that you meet in episode 1 and the people that you meet in episode 8 are transformed. And that is the coolest arc ever. I really want to see a second season of this because the character chemistry and the character transformations were so fun to watch that you want more of it. But, things happen in the show that kind of make it hard to imagine what a season 2 would be like. but because of those transformations, because of those evolutions, not only within the couples themselves, but how the couples interact with everybody else is so dramatic from episode 1 to episode 8. And you really got to think about it. It only happens in, 4-ish hours. That's how smart and punchy the writing is. It doesn't necessarily also let you dwindle on a certain moment. Like, you don't get bored in the show. And there are very few TV shows that I feel like if I binge them, that there isn't a moment where you hit like an episode like The Fly in Breaking Bad where you're like, this is filler. None of it's filler. It is all strong throughout. I was reading some of the reviews and they were saying that it kind of falls flat. I couldn't disagree more with that assessment. I think they do a really, really good job keeping the momentum going, keeping the laughs happening. There's shocking moments when there's shocking moments, but they don't live long enough to, really, really getting, you're kind of on to the next thing before you kind of realize what kind of happened. So I think they just really cut this thing down to very well. They didn't let you get bored with any of the character dynamics. One of the very, very interesting parts of the show too is that they just basically they bring in the characters to so many different scenes and so many different situations, and because of the time lapse in between those seasons, they allow them to go different places. It has a very globe-trotting-esque feeling about it because you're picking up this character arc 3 months at a time, at different vacations. So in the beginning, you're at like a anniversary party. In the summer, you're at this beach vacation kind of gone wrong. In the fall, you're at an old college there where Jack and Kate met. And then in the winter, you are in kind of like a log cabin-esque kind of celebrating New Year's. It allows you to kind of feel like you've gone on a journey with these people. And that's the whole point, I think, of this thing, is not only to make you realize that friendships and relationships and stuff like that, and then people can fight with each other. People can lose the magic that they had, but their relationships still maintain intact. Because whether they have this realization of what's important, and they kind of do a really good job of explaining that like relationships can have these push and pull moments, but like at the end of the day, like the trailer says, you're with your soulmate. So you may have ups and may have downs, right? But this show really exemplifies that it's about the relationships, and it's not about some of the things that happen to you. It's about, how you deal with them and how you appreciate each other in this show. It really it's really profound, and it will rip your heart out at the very end when you watch this show. So that is the 4 seasons on Netflix, starring Tina Fey, written by Tina Fey, Steve Carrell, and Will Forte. And one last thing, sorry, before I go. Steve Carell does such a good job. We mentioned this last week, but the characters that he chooses to play, especially after The Office, they're very complex, right? There was the movie where he was walking around with Keira Knightley because of the end of the world. There was John DuPont. There was all of these different characters. Whoever selects his scripts, whether it's him or his agent or whatever, he's always playing very complex characters. And with this one, I was kind of concerned because it seemed like a very two-dimensional character. He is a powerhouse. He is a powerhouse in this film. He makes you feel, even though you shouldn't feel for this character, for Nick in here, by the end, you feel for him. You feel for his transformation, that what he was loathing in the beginning, he sort of kind of becomes in the end, but he redeems himself. It's such a big journey with that character, even though he's doing things that are, not exactly, they're not maybe the greatest example, but he has his own choices, his own motivations, and Steve Carell plays them perfectly. I also think Tina Fey and Will Forte, they are kind of like the emotional arc of this film. They are the emotional anchor of this film, I should say. They not only kind of ground Claude and Danny have a very dramatic kind of push and pull relationship, something that you've probably seen exemplified in other people that you might know. But you kind of are sticking with Jack and Kate, right? And their transformation is unbelievable as they start to deteriorate towards the end, and then other things happen. But what seemed like such a strong relationship, because they were all looking at one that was falling apart in Nick and Ann, they start to feel the flaws in their own relationship and their own deterioration as these seasons go through. And even though it sounds heavy, it's very profound. It's very funny, this show. And I think it should be given more props than it's actually getting, because it's such a faithful but transformative adaptation of that movie. It really brings that movie into the current generation, and it does such a good job. It's such a well-written television show. They have outrageous moments in it. They have laugh-out-loud moments in it. Go check it out. It is a great piece of television. 8 episodes long. It's not going to take you forever to get through this show, which is really important. And just a remarkable piece of television that I watched. So with that, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about The Accountant 2 when we get back from the break. And we'll see you then. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Again, this is the Powell Not Found podcast. Go ahead and find us on YouTube at Powell Not Found. And also, if you have any questions or for the show or suggestions or feedback, just send them to powellnotfound@gmail.com. This Mother's Day, got to see The Accountant 2, which, with all of the stuff that's happening in cinema right now, especially up against a Marvel film, it is easy for a film like this to get lost and to not be given the recognition that it probably deserves. This weekend was weird when it came to Marvel films. Last weekend, I wanted to go see the Thunderbolts, Asterisk, and Marvel changed the title of Thunderbolts to The New Avengers. And I guess spoiled the end of the movie when they're kind of soft rebooting the Avengers after the foregone conclusion of the other Avengers. Weird choice. I guess it was successfully done. It drove box office sales up. I guess it was a good publicity stunt. But in the aftermath, on April 25th, also The Accountant 2 came out with Ben Affleck, and it probably all that Marvel stuff overshadowed probably a movie that you should probably give another shot to. I ended up watching The Accountant this weekend, a film from 8 years ago, starring Ben Affleck as Christian Wolf, Anna Kendrick, and John Bernthal, who you might recognize from the Walking Dead series, very, very early on in The Walking Dead, if you've been keeping track of The Walking Dead for the last 400 years. The first Accountant movie kind of details two brothers that were kind of raised by their father in a very, very tough militaristic way. Ben Affleck plays kind of a assassin who is diagnosed with autism and goes to kind of this specialized learning school as he's growing up, and he ends up becoming kind of like a Terminator-esque character who also happens to have a proclivity for accounting, which is not necessarily, if you had a bingo card for action movies and you decided to say, my assassin can also crush it at numbers and balancing your books, that wouldn't be the first thing I think that you would come up with. But this movie does so in kind of a campy way. The first movie combines action and campiness in such a beautiful way. It balances each other out. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think that's what kind of makes this thing fun. It's the same premise of what made early 90s James Bonds, before Daniel Craig came, appealing in a way that it wasn't overly serious. It wasn't taking itself too seriously, and that every moment was heavy and weighted. I mean, in The Accountant too, they are dealing with some pretty heavy stuff when it comes to these underground assassins and mob stuff and blah, blah, blah. And they're dealing with pretty heavy things, but they're peppering it with moments like John Bernthal's character, Brax, is, wondering if he's a dog person or a cat person. You see Ben Affleck, Christian Wolf in The Accountant, trying to find love in the beginning of this movie and going into a speed dating seminar. You see him go line dancing and try to learn how to line dance as his brother cheers him on because he's successfully finally flirted with a woman. It is bizarre where this goes. And then peppered with that, you have these moments that are very much Jason Bourne. You have these James Bond like moments. You have these action moments that make this thing really appealing to watch. The plot itself is kind of convoluted, but because it's not taking itself too seriously, it almost asks you to, hey, the plot's going to be very confusing. Almost like how a science fiction film asks the viewer to ignore the fact that you might not understand all the logic of what's going on, but you're going to enjoy the ride. It is a theme park ride of a action movie. And it reminds me of last year we reviewed the movie The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. It has that vibe, except the main character is Ben Affleck, and he really does a good job with his character here. It is funny. Ben Affleck is so recognizable, right? He has been recognizable for the last 25 years. And with this particular character, by the end of the movie, you don't really think it's Ben Affleck, even though it is Ben Affleck, because he does such a good job putting himself into this very, very rigid like character. But he has more humor this go around. He's got more. He's a little bit more. Kind of like humorous this time around. It's a little bit more punchy than the first one. This movie was a joy to watch. It was fun. It was cool. And apparently there are thoughts for a third one that's going to be a buddy cop kind of film between Brax and Ben Affleck. This one has a very, very shallow kind of mystery that you're following, but go see it. It's funny. It's something different, and it's nice to see a new franchise, especially one that's been dormant for 8 years, come back and actually really kill it at the box office, and or really kill it just in terms of seeing a good movie. So go see this movie. It's something different. It is the thing that we keep on asking for and clamoring for on this podcast, that if you don't want to see a superhero movie, go support movies like this. It's fun. They're fun. They're fun little romps and stuff like that. It doesn't take them too seriously. And, if you're just going for the popcorn, this is the perfect one to just go for the popcorn and watch some action on screen. So, again, that's The Accountant 2 starring Ben Affleck and John Bernthal. That was in theaters on April 25th. With that, we're going to wrap up the show for the day. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, you just go to youtube.com/PowellNotFound. And if you want to rate and review the show, the audio version of the show, you can find us on Spotify, find us on Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get shows and stuff like that. Download the show, rate and review the show. Every download counts. Go to our YouTube page and go to our TikTok page to see all the shorts that we do every single week. And with that, we will see you next week. I'm Mark Powell, and this is the Powell Not Found podcast. We're out.